A lot of people have talked about concerns about AI and how far we let that go. Are there any concerns that you have for that, about how we leverage AI going forward?
Not AI today, but artificial general intelligence, yes, that's very concerning. There have to be some protocols put in place because it's all rumors, but it sounded like the whole shakeup at OpenAI was related to
Welcome back to Emphasis Tech Talks, the podcast for business leaders implementing cutting-edge technology to raise their bottom lines. I'm your host, David Clausen, and our guest today is Marc Rutzen, the co-founder of Hello Data. We're going to be talking about reducing your costs in your AI efforts, the best data sets to be using, algorithms, and commercial real estate insights. A lot on the show today. Be sure to stick around and make sure you're not leaving money on the table. Marc, we appreciate you being here today and visiting with us. I know you've got a lot of great things to tell us about AI and technology and how you're using that. Give us just a little bit of a snippet. If you could think of some of the most important things that are happening today in technology and how it's going to change business and how business is run, what would that be?
Well, I think there's a lot of buzz around OpenAI and ChatGPT, clearly. I think that now the initial hype is starting to fizzle out, and people are finding real applications for the technology. In real estate, I like to joke. On one side, you have people trying to extract data from documents using large language models. On the other side, you have people trying to create those same documents using large language models. So it's almost like we're creating the PDF on one side, extracting from it on the other. It's two AIs kind of talking to each other, because you could use it to extract or craft a document. So I kind of feel like that's kind of where the tech is headed, at least in real estate, is for document extraction and document composition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. I hadn't thought about that before, but you're very right. We have clients that are doing that same thing. As you say, pulling from documents and then creating documents. So is that, I think the obvious thing that I think of there is how that's going to improve on performance. But do you think that's going to increase in quality or not really?
It's been increasing in quality, right? So it's funny. There were a whole bunch of startups that started to do document extraction using OpenAI, using their API, and like ask your PDF, right? There's so many different variations of that. Like upload a PDF, and we'll be able to ask it questions or extract data from it. Well, then OpenAI just releases, do that same thing, but for free. You upload your PDF, we'll extract from it. So, I think it's important to think about what's coming next and what is defensible as a tech company. What can you build that OpenAI cannot do tomorrow if they so choose? And that usually revolves around building a proprietary and complex data set that's not easy to recreate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so that's some of the conversations I've been having with some of our clients is around the data set that's being used. Because if you're just going out to the public internet and getting your data set, well, you're using the same data that everyone else is, and theoretically, everyone's going to come up with a similar kind of result. So unless you have something unique in the data set that you're using, or something really unique in the model in the way that you're doing it, you're just going to be implementing copies. There's going to be a lot of copies out there and duplication. Yeah. So tell us a little bit. I was looking on the website, and I know that according to the website, you're using AI to go over the images and pulling data that way. It seems like a very interesting way to use AI. How are you doing that? How does your customer get benefit of that technology in the way that you're processing it there?
Yeah, so our main use case is we serve up rent comps for multifamily investments, whether it's a value add investment, stabilized acquisition, or a new development. We can identify rent comps better than any other platform. The way we do this is by using a combination of all the data available, right? So most algorithms that source rent comps, they use year built, number of units, maybe amenities. So some like kind of high level data from the property and similar properties. What we do is we analyze the listing photos in real time. We collect data every day from millions of listings. We extract the condition, quality, and attributes from every photo that's posted on a real estate listing, and we use it to determine the condition and quality of those assets. We use that plus the amenities, plus the market demographics, plus of course the year built, number of units, etc. And blending all of that with our model, we can actually serve up rent comps instantly in any market with just an address or property name. So it's mostly used for that, but we do have some customers who saw it used in our rent comps model and thought, man, we could use that for our data processing, just the image extractor. And so some of them do use what we call quality score, that API to just extract from images and put it, use the data in their databases, use it in their analyses. So it's a versatile application, but for us, it's all about getting the best rent comps.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So you're rifling through the images that are posted on the MLS then?
We're mostly ILSs, internet listing sites. So we go to property websites. We go to several different listing sites. We try to catch every unit that hits the market every day, analyze the condition, quality, and attributes, and then serve up similar properties and similar floor plans within those properties, right? Because how we look at it, very much like an appraiser, we want to, if we're pricing multifamily units, which is our business to accurately price multifamily units, we want to look at what has closed recently that is the most statistically similar to the unit that we're trying to price. So we look at the last 30 days worth of what has actually closed, and we gauge the statistical similarity using the photos, using the amenities, using the property attributes, and we serve up floor plans that just closed, and we tell you what the rents are so you can price your units effectively.
Wow, that's an interesting topic, and that's one of the reasons that we started this show was so that our audience can learn how to use technology to advance their business. And I can hear already that we're learning some things from you. It's going to be really important to the audience. So we appreciate you taking part of that conversation. And to the audience out there, make sure that you're commenting, you're liking, subscribing, so that we can continue to bring more content like this, and so that you're notified whenever we have new guests. We've got a number of great guests coming up. Marc is in the mix there, and so we appreciate him doing that. So I imagine that there's a lot of data that you're storing and analyzing. What are the opportunities or strategies that you're using in data governance or just in how you're processing and managing that data?
Well, that is a broad topic with a lot of different things different paths we can go down in discussing it. I think the biggest thing for us is being able to process a massive number of listings, a massive quantity of data in a really efficient way, because we're doing it every day. It's not like we're syncing monthly or something and we have some QA time. It has to be live every single day, because that's how you set market rents properly, is you look at everything that's closing every day. So as far as how to efficiently run the data pipeline, it's as much batch processing as you possibly can. It's using efficient algorithms to join data sets. It's not doing things that you don't need to do, right? So we look at the web tree for these listing sites or the property website, and we look at what has actually changed, right? If the price of the listing has not changed, if it hasn't been removed, no new listing has been added, We don't need to collect that data. It's the same as it was yesterday. If something has changed, we collect it. And just doing that, just ignoring the stuff that has not changed, helps us reduce the processing cost by probably upwards of 80%, right? Because we're not collecting data on, we're not collecting the same data over and over again, right? If nothing's changed, it's going to be the same thing. Why collect that data? It's the same. But if we see that it changes, we do collect it. So it's just a lot of efficiency tricks like that. Like, look, do exactly what is needed and nothing more. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies, especially big companies, are spending wasting a ton of money on processes in their cloud services that they do not need to do. They're just pouring money down the drain. They don't notice it because they're very large, but it's a lot of money. And if they could have someone come in there and make their algorithms more efficient, join the data more efficiently, they could save millions of dollars.
Yeah, you are so spot on with that. We have a lot of clients coming to us and asking us to go in and, do some optimization and look at how we can improve what they're doing and reduce their cost. And it's amazing to me how much money is being left out there on the table, or to your point, that they're spending unnecessarily. I, I can tell you of lots of data that has been processed and curated up into a data warehouse. They looked at it for 10 minutes and no one's touched it in months, if not years.
But it's still running.
After that.
It's still running every
Yeah,
day.
yeah, it is. And that was not a big deal. To your point about optimization, that was not a big deal when someone could create a script. I know I've seen a lot of these processes on these databases when they're on-prem. If you write a script and it runs for 30 minutes and it's running between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., it's likely no one cares. But if that same script goes to the cloud and it's running for 30 minutes, well, you're paying for all those 30 minutes. And guess what? You can probably optimize that and get it to run in a much, much more efficiently. Either, I've seen those 30-minute scripts turn out to be able to be run in like 2 minutes. And when you're paying by the minute, that's a substantial cost savings.
Oh yeah, I mean the companies that have massive data processing costs, a lot of the times, they're not hiring like state of the art data scientists to the people that are really on the bleeding edge trying to make the most efficient algorithms. That's not the business they're in. So they hire people that do like a pretty unsophisticated Python script, and then it gets the job done. They just leave it running. But to your point, no one's looking at that data warehouse. It's just running over and over and over and wasting resources when it really doesn't need to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And I just can't overstate how big that is. If you're out there and you've got a data warehouse that's ingesting data, you need to be checking to see whether or not if that data is actually being used. And and there should be some, and we've been able to help some organizations go back and like in Snowflake, you can create tags. But you need some data governance process or some process where someone's responsible for that data feed and they have to regularly buy off on that they're using it. And we've even built in processes to go back and check to see how many times has that table been queried, who's using it, how many downloads have been pulled from that table. Those kind of different metrics that we can put together to show whether or not if it's really being used. And if it's not, you need to step back and either make sure somebody's doing their job that was supposed to be using it to do their job, or make a decision about whether or not if you want to keep that for long-term processing or not. So that's really a great point. What do you see coming down the pike from technology perspective? I know we've been talking a lot about AI, and obviously that's top of mind to a lot of folks. but I'll open it up even broader and just say technology in general. What do you see coming down the pike that's going to change the kind of work that you guys do or that you're looking to do in the not too distant future?
For us, it's extraction from different sources, right? So, like we built and we initially used Chat GPT for this to test it, but then we had to build our own algorithm to extract specials. When they post specials on like a property website, oh, sign up today and get a 1 month free rent. Okay, well, those can be all over the place, right? Understanding what that text means and translating it to an effective rent for the property was a big problem because for us, and it's something we solved by building our own model. It's something that 5 years ago when we were doing a similar thing, we had a different startup that we were also surveying market rents with and trying to advise people on which investments were good or not good. Something that was not possible at all 5 years ago with the sophistication that it is today. So I think a lot of as advanced as tech has gotten over the last few years, there's still the vast majority of businesses are still dealing in like paper and PDFs and stuff that is not really datafied. It's just the way people do business, like insurance, healthcare, real estate, right? It's all in PDF documents. It's all in paper. Well, in the next year, I would say, which is why we have not focused too much on document extraction because we think in the next year, OpenAI is going to get so good at that, is going to put a lot of those companies that are focused on extraction out of business, right? It'll just be PDFs become data very fluidly. The content is recognized, it's converted to JSON, and it's stored in a database pretty easily, right? And everyone's been experimenting with generative AI and like writing blog posts and crafting, in our case, like offering memos for real estate investment. I think the extraction has lagged a bit behind because that wasn't the first use case, but it's catching up. And soon it's going to be sophisticated enough that these companies that have based their business on it, I don't think they're going to have as much opportunity there. I think OpenAI and similar products are going to take over there. So it's stuff like that, and it's analyzing trends, analyzing massive data sets. I think we're starting to scratch the surface with that. Because think about the number of tokens. If you're going to feed a massive data set into OpenAI, it's going to cost a very lot to process. The costs are starting to come down, though, right? So some of these models now it's gone from a cost of several $1 million to build a large language model to now some of these libraries you can take off the shelf and build your own internal large language model to analyze your business's data for like $100,000. Right? Guaranteed Blackstone's going to do that. All the big groups, the private equity groups, the big lenders, the big investors, they're all going to do that because $100,000 is like, that's walking around money. It's chump change. So, I think that internal LLMs are going to be a huge thing in the next few years. And I think we'll see so many interesting applications of that tech.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have talked about concerns about AI and how far we let that go. Are there any concerns that you have for that, about how we leverage AI going forward?
Well, not AI today, but artificial general intelligence. Yes, that's very concerning. There have to be some protocols put in place because, it's all rumors, but it sounded like the whole shakeup at OpenAI was related to the release of, or the pending release of something close to artificial general intelligence. And if there aren't the proper protocols in place to control that, I mean, imagine being able to optimize every single operation, like the machine being able to optimize its own processing of information. If there aren't proper protocols in place or algorithms in place to prevent it, it can just optimize itself to hack everyone's computer. It could optimize itself to like brute force attack things, bring websites down. gain control of private systems, if it's unleashed, not to say it's even a thing, it could be, a year out, it could be 30 years out, it could be 50 years out. We don't know. Everyone's been speculating on AGI for a long time. But if it's a year out, well, then we better figure out what we're going to do from a regulatory standpoint, because if that is unleashed, there's Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom. I think that's the author. Goes about talking through all the ways that AGI could destroy civilization, and it's shocking the number of ways it can destroy civilization. We just got to be cautious and put the proper controls in place.
Yeah, I could agree with that on the controls. One of the things that I've been really pushing for is that we not allow AI to make the final judgment call on, especially on human interaction kind of things. So, in other words, I would not want to see AI replacing judges in the courtroom kind of thing. Um, and I mean, I know we're a little bit a ways from that at this point, but I do see some things today. Um, Look at Twitter and uh, you know those social media kind of platforms. I mean, they're already trying to use AI to try to decide, what content should be allowed and what content shouldn't. And that's kind of one of those gray areas, and certainly understand some of the challenges there, but we can't let that go so far that it's impacting the way that people uh, could live their lives. Whether or not if someone gets a job, whether or not uh, they get a raise, or all of those kinds of things. Whether or not if they're get put in prison or not. That's kind of where I've generally drawn the line. I mean, it's one thing about whether or not if your property gets priced at 2 million or 2.1 million, but it's a whole other thing if your next 30 years of your life will be impacted, uh, and you'll be jailed or not based on an AI decision. So yeah, but
Comes into play in housing too, because if AI systems approve or disapprove of potential residents, right? That has a whole can of worms that can be opened up, right? Like, you can't live in certain places because the AI is saying that you're not qualified, even though you very well may be. But the I would say to your point that we don't want AI determining judgments in cases where it could negatively impact someone's life. Well, there's also a lot of judges that are biased out there, right? I mean, that's how the training data gets into the system in the first place. So I think the best use of it in that context, or in a decision making context, is to not only help people accelerate their jobs, but to be a check that people are actually doing their jobs the right way, right? Are they approaching that judgment without bias, or can AI determine that they actually are being kind of biased in their judgment, and so they should lose their job, right? It can be used to eliminate bias as well as create biased decisions. It just depends how you use it. It's a tool like anything else.
yeah, I think that's the key, that it's a tool and it should be leveraged as that, and you should be able to use the feedback that you're getting from that tool in your decision making process, or as you're also suggesting, to be able to measure the quality of those decisions that you're making. I think it's just important that a human factor be in that decision making process somewhere along the line. Is kind of my whole point. And your point earlier, so you've been talking a lot about having your own internal data source, which also comes to another point that I've been making lately about AI, and that is, if that internet data set is used often, or I shouldn't say often, but sometimes it could be skew the decision, or skew the results, because not everyone gets online. So, in other words, if you're trying to test whether or not if a particular policy would be would go over well in America kind of thing. Well, if you're not careful, you're going to leave out a lot of people that don't participate in the internet. So either those that are rural or, um, in poverty, the Amish, right? Different groups that just don't participate in this electronic age that we're in. And so we need to be careful that we don't make all the decisions just based on the information that's on the internet. So there's other information that needs to be included. And, but I think you've kind of tackled that from the internal, using your internal data set and not just that's publicly available. Okay, so Mark, one of the things I like to ask our guests is about um, talent. So there's always this competing uh, pressures in the marketplace for our talent pool. How do you engage um, very astute and highly technical talent? How do you entice them to be a part of what you're doing? And then maybe a follow-on question about how do you work with those groups and keep them highly motivated?
For this particular startup, I have the same two people that were my first hires at my last startup. I made them a bunch of money, and yeah, they stuck with me, and we're doing it again, right? But generally, I would say when you're trying to find good people, you have to solve an interesting and challenging problem. You have to clearly articulate the problem you're trying to solve and the impact. And you have to give them real examples of the type of things they're going to be working on. So I like to say we're one of the pickiest groups where I have been, no matter where I've been in my first startup, in my time at Walker and Dunlop currently, although we're not hiring a whole lot now because we don't need to, but everyone I've ever hired, I've been very, very picky about who we bring on the team because one bad apple or one person who can't pull their weight, it brings the whole team down. The effects compound. It's way, way bigger than you think. You can't leave people that can't pull their weight on the team, or you will have a heck of a problem on your hands. So what I do to find the best possible people, I explain the stuff that we're working on. I gauge their excitement in that initial interview. See like how big of a thing is it to them? Like how engaged are they on this particular problem? If they're phoning it in, you could kind of tell. And I'm from like a blue collar background where people you learn to kind of read people like are they full of it or are they serious? Okay, are these guys just trying to get a job or are they really engaged or passionate about this problem? Okay, so from there I usually ask some questions about how much of a self-starter they are, because particularly in startup world in tech, you have to be a self-starter, able to solve problems. You can't be spoon-fed every single next step or it's just not going to work. Our team is small, right? So we have to be self-directed. And then I always give a good coding challenge, right? So we find a coding challenge that is extremely relevant to the stuff they will be working on, like the exact task. I almost find stuff that's on the roadmap that's like one step out. And I say, hey, here's a piece of that thing that we're going to be building. Let's see how you'd approach it, because that's a real world situation. And we make it complex enough that it's challenging and difficult, but not crazy so that they're not it's not like a 12-hour project or something, right? It's like you could do it. If you're good, you could do it in like 2-3 hours, right? If it goes beyond that, then we have not done our job in crafting the challenge. And if they do it in 2 to 3 hours and they go above and beyond, there are two types of people that we typically hire. Is like the people who do it so efficiently that they get it done in 2 to 3 hours and it's like really well coded. It's super efficient algorithms. Well, even well commented, right? Because if their variables that they use are like A, B, C, no one's going to be able to read that. You're on a team. You're not an island. You need readable variables, understandable code, and it has to function well. Do it 2 to 3 hours. You're an efficient, good coder. The other group is they went above and beyond. They took it two steps beyond where we outlined it needed to go. They did something else. They built a UI for it. They built some different query than we thought. They're like, oh, I thought if I added this data set in, yeah, I spent like 6 hours doing it, but I was engaged in it. I really liked it, and so I added this other data set and built this other query. And then I'm like, okay, these guys are really engaged. They really care about the problem, and they're very motivated to not only solve it to the best of their ability, but to work on this problem set that we're putting in front of them. So either very efficient, very readable, very clean code that will interact well with the team, and that's a no-brainer, or the people that put in that extra effort because they're passionate. And as long as the code is also like pretty well structured, even if it's got a little bit of issues or stuff that could be polished a bit more, if they put six hours into it, go above and beyond, I'm like, all right, I'll look past that. You're the type of person we want.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So that's great advice. I don't disagree with any of that, and have used some of that. Kind of to your point about when they go above and beyond. So uh, if they're very interested in the technology, if that's their hobby as much as it is their job, then that's going to go a long ways. And Yeah, so all really great input. Appreciate you giving us that information and that feedback. So, thinking about the upcoming things and geopolitical landscape and so forth, what's some of the legislation uh, that you see, or have you seen anything coming up as it might relate to AI and how businesses operate using their data?
Yeah, I think every government around the world is thinking about how to regulate AI. And there's just recently some legislation passed in Europe that we're digging into on our end to figure out what the implications are. But I think every government is going to pass some regulation, and it's incumbent on businesses to be aware of what is being passed. Because you may have a process that is in place today. You're providing a service, you're using AI to do a particular thing. Depending on the volume, what if you're doing it hundreds of thousands of times a day? You're a very successful business, have a lot of users. All of a sudden, regulation passes, and then bam, that thing that you were doing is now not okay. And that could end up costing you a lot of money or put companies out of business entirely. Not to say there are all these businesses that are doing things today that would violate regulations that will be passed, but I think it's really important to stay on top of what is being legislated and know how it impacts your business in your particular market, because it's going to be different in every country.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I know in the oil and gas industry, so we were working on a project where we're pulling in data, temperature data from the wells, and the government required that we have that data available for every 5 minutes. And to your point about it adding up very quickly, if it wasn't there and it wasn't available in 5 minutes, if I remember correctly, I want to think that was like a $10,000 fine for every instance. So if all of a sudden your systems are down and you don't get data for an hour, that's
It's an expensive hour.
that's a pretty good
Yeah.
hickey. Yeah, just because you didn't have the data there. So yeah, it would be very wise to stay abreast of what's going on. I agree with that 100%. So moving on to kind of our business users at large here, are there any kind of tools that you're using that you think that the various business folks and organizations should be using? Any kind of advice you can give around the technologies that our audience should be using?
Well, if you happen to be in commercial real estate, I'll say our product is phenomenal at analyzing commercial real estate. But one thing that we use that is broad and applicable to any business and any industry is note-taking software, right? So every time we have a call, in the past, whether it was product feedback or sales or whatever that call happened to be, I'd have to write up, okay, what did we talk about for the product team, for the sales team, for the customer success team? Here are all the key takeaways. I spend time writing that up because I want to communicate the feedback that we're getting in real time. Well, today we use this product called Data.ai, and it's a small team. I think it's only 3 people. So like us, I mean, AI enables you to do a lot of things with a very small team. You can it's like leverage, right? You can really do a lot more with less. So Circleback, I think, is only 3 guys, and it's like the best note taking software that I've seen. Summarizes everything in a very succinct way, has key takeaways, and has a whole transcript of the call too, right? So it's only $25 a month for me. I'm comparing it to like Gong, where Gong's like, hey, to use Gong, you have to start at 10 grand. I'm like, well, I can't pay 10 grand for note taking. Yes, they have good analytics, but at the end of the day, I want to take notes on what happened in the call and what people are supposed to do, and I don't want to break the bank doing it. And I feel Circleback has done a really, really good job with that.
All right. Good callback. I'm going to have to go check them out. I've not used them, so that'll be a good one for me to check out. All right. Well, Mark, I know you and I could go on all day talking about data and tool sets. I really like the engagement that we had today. Appreciate you being on the show. But tell our audience, how can they get in touch with you, or at least follow you, and all the fine work that you're doing over there at Hello Data?
Yeah, check us out, hellodata.ai, hellodata.ai. So pretty easy to remember. Check out our site, especially if you're in commercial real estate. I mean, we do a soup to nuts full market analysis in seconds with just an address. Pull in your market comps, analyze them, recommend rents, benchmark your expenses, get you to NOI in just a matter of seconds, very, very accurately, right? It's a game changer for acquisitions teams, asset managers, anyone who is analyzing real estate for potential investment. That's what we do. So check us out, hellodata.ai. That's the best course, and I'm happy to set up a demo. Just click the link on our site, and you get to talk to me, see the product. It'll be fun.
Awesome. There you go, guys. Well, be sure and follow up with Mark. You can also check him out on LinkedIn, find him there. And so do that. If you're in commercial real estate, you heard the pitch there. A great tool for you to go check out. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to Emphasis Tech Talks. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all of those great things. And we'll see you next time.